this card is so great, top to bottom. Not just the main and co-main event that I named there, but just so many good fights. Dana, I'm going to ask you about Israel. I'm going to ask you about the Jorge's fight. What are you kind of excited about, Dana, that we may be overlooking the night before this big card?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. The whole card is awesome. I mean, obviously, the main event, the co-main event is incredible. Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez should be an absolute war with two studs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, we got this kid that we signed on the Contender Series, 18 years old, Raul Rosas Jr. He's 7-0, and you don't see this anywhere in any combat sport with any other promoter. We had a fight like this a couple weeks ago, and we got it again. There's no padded records. There's no easy path to the top 10, the top 5, and to the title. And he's taking on a kid named Christian Rodriguez, who's 8-1. So I mean, it's two kids that whoever wins out of this one starts their climb up to the top. So we have a lot of fun fights like that. Holland versus Ponzinibbio is a fun fight.
These are fights that would easily be main events on fight nights, and here you are. Right, it's awesome, and they're right. And you talk about Raul Rosas. There are no cupcakes. There are no tomato cans. Like you said, he is fighting a guy who is a beast, and somebody's going to lose. So cannot wait for that.
18 and Rodriguez is 25, right. 8-1 and 7-0. I mean, it's just. And if this kid Raul wins and beats this guy, his credibility level just starts to go through the roof, and the kid's going to be on his way to becoming a big star for us.
Right. You have Rosas, 17 years old, dominating men. All right, Dana, let's talk about the co-main event. I'm talking to Jorge the other day, and Jorge says, I think I can change Dana's mind. I think I can go in there, put on such an explosive performance that Dana says, you know what, it's not Colby getting the next fight against Leon. It's going to be me. Is that possible, Dana? Can he go in there and be that great?
Let me tell you what's going to happen. If he goes in and he does that against a guy like Gilbert Burns, right, whom I have a ton of respect for. Gilbert Burns is an absolute badass.
Yeah.
Then you have Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards. And if Leon Edwards beats Colby Covington, the history between Leon Edwards and Masvidal, and then they both win these fights, that fight will be so huge, people will be dying to see that fight.
Maybe one of the biggest ever.
100%. It will be absolutely massive. And maybe we do it back in Miami, because let me tell you what about this city. I was reading this stat where almost 400,000 people have moved to Florida this year. So if you think since 2020, it's got to be a couple million people that have moved here. This place is absolutely booming, man. This place reminds me of LA like 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every restaurant is packed and jumping. We went to a restaurant last night to meet some people at midnight. The place was packed.
At midnight.
I my window up the beach. The beach is it's just packed up and down the beach. The traffic here is insane. This city is incredible. It's completely changed over the last several years. So, yeah, I'll be back here again soon.
Speaking of LA, everybody leaving this crappy state. But anyway, I digress, Dana. Do you think, I see some people talking about this could be Jorge's last fight, of course, if he were to lose to Gilbert Burns. Do you see something like that, Dana, or is that hard to believe, Jorge kind of laying down his gloves inside the octagon?
I don't know. It's interesting. You never know until a guy gets done with a fight, see how the fight went, how he felt. These guys know when it's over, and we'll find out on Saturday.
Now, Dana, going to the main event, it's interesting for Izzy, isn't it? Because obviously this just being the second fight in the UFC, but as fans know, they fought previously twice in kickboxing. Pereira's won all 3 fights so far. Is this, in your mind, is this the last chance that Israel gets against Alex Pereira?
Well,
obviously, a win changes things because then you have a trilogy. But with a loss, is this it for Izzy?
Yeah, it would absolutely make sense if he loses again. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Do you think that Alex Pereira, as huge as he is, does he end up going to light heavyweight after this fight?
Well, I think he could. I mean, he's a monster 185er. But if he makes the weight easy and he can do it, why not stay here, defend the title, create a legacy at this weight class, then challenge for 205?
Absolutely. Dana, obviously something that made big news this week. You and Vince obviously always had this tremendous relationship. I know you've had a lot of respect for each other. Does this now open a path for your guys going and wrestlers going and possibly taking fights? Could we see Conor go and pop up on Raw? Does this open the door for that to happen now?
Not really. I mean, it's happened before, even when, you know, the relationship wasn't what it is now. You know, Brock Lesnar wanted to try it. He's obviously got an incredible wrestling background, so he was successful here. It'd be very hard for many of the other guys to come over here and be that successful. But like Ronda, when she went to the WWE, she's obviously talented enough to do it. And, you know, I think if those scenarios are still there where somebody's talented enough to actually go, because that isn't easy to do either. So if you could figure out, you know, I mean, look at Logan Paul. Have you seen his wrestling? And
it's incredible. I'm so blown away by the acrobatics. This guy's been doing this for like a year. Crazy.
I don't know jack shit about wrestling, okay?
Yeah.
But let me tell you what I do know. They hit a fucking home run with that guy. Absolute home run. He is incredibly talented. He's an amazing athlete. And yes, I was blown away by watching him. So obviously, if you have a scenario where somebody is that good and could go over the WWE, it's going to happen. But no, nothing changes in our businesses. I'm going to keep doing what I do. They're going to keep doing what they do. What happens is, business-wise, there's a lot of added value that Ari and Endeavor can add to the WWE. That's it.
There it is. Dana, before I let you go, I got to ask you, obviously Power Slap 1 in the books, incredibly successful event. It's funny because you were basically taking a sport that did not exist before. You know, how do you get the set? How do you get the look? Decide what the graphics and all of this stuff is going to look like when you're producing what is a big television show. How did you kind of work through all those things?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. You know, and this thing has been, I mean, mind-boggling successful. When you look at, you know, this thing's been around for weeks, right? We have 3.5 million followers on TikTok and Instagram in weeks. The numbers of the YouTube shorts that we do, our YouTube shorts are 250 million. We're the biggest in all of sports in weeks. If you think about the NFL's biggest one is 21 million, right?
Wow, not even close.
We're 250, right? NBA is like 5 million. Formula One is 7.8 million, and the WWE is 64 million.
Wow.
Just to show you how much bigger we are than all of them.
This thing is killing it digitally.
Every sports team on TikTok, we're bigger than. The Lakers, the Yankees,
wow.
The Celtics. The only one we're nipping at their heels right now is the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the only ones that are bigger right now.
Wow.
But when you talk about the production, you know, you want to go in. There's things that I liked from UFC that we do and stuff. But
yeah,
up with this set, there's this kid named, and it's funny you asked me this because I was just talking to this kid last week. His name is Alex Baez, and he's worked for us for like 15 years. The Ultimate Fighter sets, the Octagon. So this kid sort of went into his lab, which is his garage, and he came up with the table and how it comes out of the ground and stuff like that. You know, he's just a blue collar, hardworking kid, and he's creative, and he's obviously very talented, and he comes up with a lot of the set stuff. You know, I tell him what we're looking for, and then he goes into the lab and creates this stuff.
It's actually really interesting because with the UFC, it sort of would seem to be just a machine that kind of, you know what the octagon looks like, you know what the setup is going to be, but this is something that didn't exist before, so you have nothing to look at in the past.
He was literally, you know, he's done all the stuff that's happened to the octagon over the years. As the octagon has evolved, I guess I would say, he was all part of the evolution of that too. It's just one kid that you know, we throw stuff at and what we're looking for. He comes and does it. Like, for instance, the slap thing, we had lights and LEDs and all this stuff. I hated it. So he goes back, rips that stuff out, and then adds new stuff. It's actually pretty cool. The kid's super talented.